Hey everyone, SKG here, and as you could tell by the title, I'm here to talk about improving Jurassic World evolution. Now, this will be a series of videos going over what could possibly be done to make this game and a possible sequel better in the future. This conversation once came up in a past livestream of mine where myself, Dectunix Inc., and Permian Therapod were talking about the game, and I'm going to bring that same topic to you all today. A link to their channels will be down in the description. So first, I'll start by saying that Jurassic World Evolution should be significantly more difficult. Right now, it's frustrating at best when you get a disease and a tornado at the same time in challenge mode. But that's it. But as Dr. Alan Grant once said,
dinosaurs and man, two species separated by 65 million years of evolution, have just been suddenly thrown back into the mix together. How can we possibly have the slightest idea of what to expect?
I don't believe it. I don't believe it.
what does that line have to do with the game, you're wondering? It entails chaos theory, which Dr. Malcolm talks about in the movies and this game quite often. It's the very thought that everything that you can and can't think of going wrong, doing just that. For starters, we're building on the tropical islands of Las Cinco Muertes, the 5 deaths, and the only dangers we have to show from that is basic rain, windstorms, which are light storms, and tornadoes in the form of heavy storms. In order to feel the opposing force of Mother Nature, the game needs to communicate the impacts it can have on your parks. An example would be droughts. If you remember in J-Paw, it had heat waves where your dinosaurs would become agitated in the sweltering heat and they may try to break the fence out of sheer frustration. In Jurassic World Evolution, we should have droughts that lower a dinosaur's comfort at the same rate as a light storm, or maybe about 0.5 times or half the rate of the light storm's discomfort rate drop. The drought would not only cause some discomfort, but it would have the ability to cause small watering holes to dry up and larger sources of water to recede a bit. And these changes would be permanent, so that they would be replenished by the rain. And I'll get back to that momentarily. But a way that we would counter these droughts would be to have a spot with some shade that the animals could seek out and try to beat the heat, like under the large tree, that make use more out of our scenery trees and whatnot. Or we could have it that some dinosaurs are more affected by the extreme heat than others. That way, the key would be to knowing what security measures needs to be implemented towards each species. Another option is to have a man-made watering hole that could be refilled with fresh water when the drought hits by ranger teams. Like I stated earlier, the rain could replenish the natural and man-made water sources as well by receiving a small water gain with the basic rain we get. Light storms will give 1.5 times the water gain, heavy storms will give 2 times the water gain, and we will have a new storm system called intense storms that would either give us 3 times or 4 times the amount of water gain. Now, the rain mechanic, it will come in the form of good and bad. And I say this because while it will give fresh water to the animals, you always run the risk of water overflowing and eventually flooding. Just like how droughts permanently affect the park, so will the rain. Flooding can end up doing a lot of damage to tours if the water ends up raising to a level too deep for the vehicles to get through, requiring you to shut down the tour until further notice, which could end up doing badly for your ratings and your income. And it will go to show that maybe having a single tour system that runs throughout your park may not be such a good idea. Another thing is that a flood could hit the guest area and drown our guests and do flood damage to the buildings. If you have an enclosure that is built upon a big hill or mountain and it floods, the water will rush down in speeds great enough to wash guests, vehicles, and other dinosaurs away, either drowning or injuring the animals in the process. Depending on the size, like small carnivores and small herbivores most likely get washed away and drowned, Now, how would we counter this? Maybe we could build dams and levees to contain potential spots of water overflows. Or maybe we could use the fence types in the game to our advantage. Obviously, cable and steel fences wouldn't be great for holding water, as they would slip right through, but maybe the concrete fences would. These fences would act like a dam and hold the growing pools of water, but eventually they would overflow as well. A technique to implement would be to use a combination of both fences, where the concrete fence could hold the water and the player could have a section of cable and steel fence that would drain the excess water as it runs along the path set by the concrete fencing. However, this requires the player to have a good understanding of their enclosures layout, because remember, you're building the park. The way you build will affect the future of your park during situations like these. Touching back on the storm system, types of storms that we could use to implement, or the types of things that we could see, would be the implementation of lightning to light storms and heavy storms. In light storms, lightning has a very low chance to strike, but when it does, it can do some damage to whatever it hits. From guests to fences and buildings to your vehicles and ranger jeeps and helicopters to even the dinosaurs themselves. During light storms, it can only strike once or twice. The structures it damages, like amenities of buildings, attractions, such as the Innovation Center, and fences, will take moderate damage to small damage depending on building type and storm protection coverage. It will cause moderate damage to small buildings like the fast food building and gift shops, looking just like how the damage does in the game already. And repairs to these small buildings will cause for the business to need to be shut down until repairs are complete, and that would impact income, which would be a big detriment to people in the early stages of the game. While a larger building like the Innovation Center wouldn't be affected that much, only receiving minimal damage that could be repaired without impacting income revenue at all. Now, lightning during a light storm should have a 25% chance of having 2 bolts strike, but just 12.5% chance for just 1 bolt of lightning to strike. However, lightning during a heavy storm would be significantly more lethal. You would have 3 to 5 bolts of lightning to have a chance to strike, ranging in the percentage range of 50%. That 3 to 5 of those bolts will strike with the power of the light storm lightning, or a 25% chance that there will be a big charged bolt of lightning capable of doing significant damage to larger buildings and decimating smaller ones. Large buildings hit by this charged bolt will need repairs that will cause them to be shut down and impacting income. The last type of lightning will be seen in what will be called the severe thunderstorm, which will be part of the intense storm category. Intense storms are rare, but when they occur, they deal great damage. Storms in this category are the aforementioned severe thunderstorm, which can trigger potential flash flooding, and hurricanes. Keeping with lightning is that during the severe thunderstorm, there will be a 5% chance of lightning striking with the power of a light storm up to 5 times, or a 5% chance of 3 bolts of charged lightning striking. However, there is an 85% chance of one single supercharged bolt of lightning striking that absolutely decimates whatever it hits, causing immediate death to guests and dinosaurs, as well as tremendous amount of repair time to buildings and structures. Again, noted that lightning is supposed to strike at random, so it could hit anything in the park, or it could potentially miss and just strike the ground, leaving a scar among the land. A way to combat these storms is with storm coverage, like what's already in the game, reducing potential damage caused. It should be noted that if a lightning hits a fence or substation, it will have different effects. Light storm lightning, if it hits a substation, it will shut down the power to one thing on the grid. May that be an amenity or a staff utility building like the research center. or an electric fence on the grid. If it strikes the fence, the unit hit will lose power. The section of the fence hit depends on how long the unit is when placed by the player. You know, when you start making your fence, you can either you decide how long one section of the fence will be. It'll be short or it'll be long. For me, that will count as one unit, and that whole one unit will go out. So depending on what you do there, if lightning strikes, it may put you in a precarious situation. The charged bolts of lightning can take out power to several buildings or fences on a substation's grid. It can even short out pylons. If this bolt hits a substation, the substation itself will need repairs before power can be restored. If it hits a fence, it will take out 3 units of power to electrical fencing. The supercharged lightning bolt, if it hits a substation, will shut down power to everything on the substation's grid, destroying the substation and needing it to be fully replaced in order to fix the grid. The same is said for if it hits a fence. It will shut down the power to the whole enclosure, including any viewing galleries or towers that are attached to the fence at the time, and needing electrical fencing to be worked on for extensive periods of time before it can be up and running again. The next type of natural disaster would be the hurricane, part of the intense storms. Think light storm, but 5 times as worse. Wind speeds that can cause significant damage to decimating damage to buildings and structures. The wind speeds will require immediate guest shelter, or they will be blown away and possibly injured or killed. Small dinosaurs like Drysaurus, Dilophosaurus, and Velociraptor will be forced to bunker down and take shelter, preventing them from moving, or they will risk being blown away if they can't find adequate shelter from the wind. This will prevent small carnivores from trying to escape enclosures while the storm is active. Even though the comfort is dropping, allowing the player to assess the situation a little more effectively. However, medium-sized creatures like Triceratops, Stegosaurus, Ceratosaurus, and Metrocanthosaurus are less affected, but still require some type of shelter, or prolonged exposure to the storm will eventually cause their comfort to drop as well. Large animals like sauropods, rexes, and the Spinosaurus will not have their comfort affected by this storm. However, the hurricane has the power to uproot trees and cause water to rise and potentially flood areas. So animals like Spinosaurus, Camarasaurus, and Mamenchisaurus, who are particularly needy when it comes to their grassland, forest, and wetland needs, will be adversely affected by those regards. The last type of natural disaster will be the earthquake. The rarest thing to occur in the game, it has the ability to reshape your park in an instant depending on severity. Earthquakes will have a bonus addition on certain maps like Sanctuary, Isla Muerta, including Muerta East, and the Tacayo Research Facility, just to name a few, that will cause a tsunami. Now the tsunami won't be anything crazy like in 2012 or anything, but it'll be a wave that will wash up on the land and cause flooding on a bigger scale than any of the other storms. And a situation like this can easily be countered by allowing the player to build slopes of land towards where the shores are, so most of the water can potentially run back and down into the ocean. Now, me, Deck Tunics, and Permit Therapod, we talked about volcanoes in the stream, but I don't believe we found a way for that mechanic to work, so that one's still up in the air. But that will do it for today's video. The next video will cover dinosaur care and management alongside enclosure requirements to reduce potential escapes. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video and subscribe if you want to see more. This has been Super King Ghidorah, and I'll see you all later. Peace out, people.